Your money frog might be showing wealth the way out, not attracting it, not guarding it, literally pointing it to the exit. Oh, and it happens more often than you'd think. So, this happened a while ago. I was cleaning out the entryway. Just one of those quiet, slow mornings. You know, coffee in one hand, music playing softly. Nothing serious. Just clearing space. And then I saw it, tucked on the side shelf. Small, shiny, three-legged. That little money frog, just sitting there, facing the door. Honestly, I hadn't even noticed it in months. It had just become background. But something about that morning felt different. Like the space was whispering, "Hey, look again." So I did. And that's when the whole thing started to unravel. Truth is, I almost missed it. And if I did, maybe you have too. These little Fengshui mistakes? They don't yell. They whisper. And honestly, they might be quietly messing with your flow. That's why I started this series. Fengshui Red Flags. To catch the quiet leaks. To fix them gently. One story at a time. So if that speaks to your space, stick around. Subscribe if it feels right. You might be surprised what's been pushing your energy out. I used to think it looked kind of perfect. A little golden frog, right by the door, like it was guarding something sacred. But the thing is, that's exactly what most people get wrong. It feels protective. But in Feng Shui, it might be doing the opposite. In Feng Shui, direction isn't decoration. It's instruction. Oh gosh, this part surprised me the most. Because for months, I'd left that little frog sitting proudly on the entry shelf, facing outward, like it was, greeting the world. But here's the problem. In Feng Shui, where it's looking matters just as much, if not more than where it's sitting. That front-facing frog? It wasn't guarding anything. It was guiding, quietly, constantly, and not inward. Every time I opened the door, it was like the space said, "Right this way, come in, come out, take what you need." And when that energy becomes your baseline, you start living like things aren't meant to stay. Like wealth, luck, even peace are just passing through. Oh, I really didn't see it at first. But once I did, it felt so obvious, so quietly loud, and I couldn't believe I'd missed it for that long. At first, I brushed it off. I mean, come on, it's just a frog. A decoration, right? But things felt weird. Quietly weird. Money started slipping in strange little ways. A canceled gig here. A delayed invoice there. An unexpected bill, oh gosh. Those came out of nowhere. And the timing? Always. Just when I thought I was getting ahead. Honestly, it wasn't even about the big stuff. It was the constant, subtle setbacks. Little leaks that slowly, quietly chipped away at my momentum. I remember one afternoon just sitting at the table, looking at my budget, again, and feeling this deep, frustrating sense of, why does it always feel like I'm starting over? That's when it hit me. It wasn't dramatic. It was draining. Like something in the space, something so small, was sending the message, let it go, let it pass, don't hold. And day by day, I was starting to believe it. So, one quiet morning, I just stood there in front of it, that little frog, still facing the door, still doing its job just in the wrong direction. I didn't light incense, didn't do a ritual, didn't even Google what to do. I just breathed, Then, very gently, I picked it up. Oh, it was heavier than I expected. Cold, too, like it hadn't been touched in a long while. I held it for a moment, turned it slowly, so carefully, and then placed it back facing inward, toward the house, toward me. I added a small coin, gold-colored, round, simple, just to say, "You're welcome here now." And I set it on a little wooden tray, lifted it slightly so it wasn't crouched low or hidden behind anything. It was such a small thing, but gosh, it felt big. Like I wasn't just turning a charm. I was turning a pattern I hadn't realized I was repeating. The weirdest part? I didn't expect anything to change. I wasn't even trying to manifest. Just clear the block. But within a few days, things started feeling different. Quietly different. The house felt calmer. Like less fidgety, if that makes sense. No more last-minute drama. No more payment delays. Even my email inbox felt lighter. Oh, that was such a weird but welcome shift. I got a surprise refund, check small, but still. And a friend who owed me for months finally Venmo'd me back. Out of nowhere. And me? I didn't even flinch. There was this sudden sense of ease. Like I wasn't clenching anymore. Not chasing. Not doubting. Just allowing. And honestly, that felt more abundant than any dollar sign ever could. Sometimes, all it takes is a small turn inward. And once I saw that shift, I started wondering what else I'd been placing the wrong way. So I thought, I'd fixed it. Direction, done. All good, right? But turns out where you place the frog matters just as much. Because some spots, they don't just block energy, they bury it. So, yeah, after fixing the direction, I thought, that's it, nailed it. But then I moved it into this quiet little nook. You know, the type-low shelf, recessed wall, kind of shadowy but tidy. It looked peaceful, out of the way, safe. But Fengshui doesn't love out of sight, out of mind. Especially not with symbols tied to wealth. The frog wasn't just in a corner. It was trapped in one. No light, no airflow, no energetic movement. And corners? They hold what Feng Shui calls stagnant qi, kind that sits heavy and unmoving, like air that never gets refreshed. And I didn't even realize how long it had been just sitting there. So still, so quietly forgotten. Which now that I say it out loud, yeah, that was kinda how my finances felt. Safe, but stuck. Nothing truly wrong, but nothing really moving either. Oh, and the worst part? I thought I was being minimal. But minimal isn't the same as hidden. And the frog? It didn't feel honored. It felt shelved. At first, I didn't think much of it. I mean, it's just a shelf, right? It looked clean, intentional, simple. But slowly, things started feeling kind of flat. Like, weirdly neutral. Nothing bad was happening. But nothing exciting either. Everything just felt muted. Clients would ask for my rates, then disappear. I'd get interest in a project, then it'd stall. Even my ideas? They came, but didn't land. Like butterflies that never quite touched down. And me? I started questioning if I was doing something wrong. If maybe I needed to hustle harder, push more, say yes to things I didn't want. It was so subtle, but the message felt clear. Keep quiet, don't shine too bright, stay tucked away. And I couldn't shake this one thought. Was I unintentionally telling the universe I wasn't ready? Because energy flows where permission is given. And that dark little corner didn't feel like a yes. So one afternoon, I stood in front of that shelf. Again, it was Cleany's. But oh, it felt disconnected. I crouched down, looked at the frog, and just whispered, "Hey, you deserve better than this." I gently picked it up. Oh wow, it was dusty underneath. Like, properly ignored. I took a soft cloth, wiped it slowly, then looked around my space. And that's when I saw it. A floating shelf near the dining room, right by a window. There was morning light. There was movement. There was life. So I moved the frog there, carefully, like I was moving an elder into a better room. I placed it on a small wooden stand, added a fresh green leaf in a tiny dish beside it, and then just stood there. It felt right, like the energy exhaled. No incense, no chants, just a quiet, gentle rearrangement. But wow, it felt like I was saying, let abundance be seen. Let it sit where light touches. What surprised me most, it wasn't the money. It was the clarity. That week, I had 3 tasks I'd been procrastinating for months, and I actually did them, like, effortlessly. A past client reached out, asking if I was open to a retainer, and I didn't overthink it. I just said, yes, that feels good. Even weirder, I noticed people were looking at me differently. Grocery clerk, barista, even a neighbor. Like, my energy was just a little more magnetic. Oh, and the house? It felt warmer. Not temperature-wise, just more alive. The dining room light hit the frog each morning, and every time I passed it, I'd smile softly, not because it was working, but because I finally saw it. And somehow, that made me feel seen, too. Visibility isn't ego, it's energy saying, I'm ready. And with every move, I realized this wasn't just Fengshui, it was reflection. So, I was feeling confident. 2 fixes down, flow restored, right? But one day, I walked into someone else's home and saw their money frog, and my jaw literally dropped. Okay, so here's the thing. I didn't mean to get it wrong. I just picked what felt safe. The smallest one on the shelf. It was cute. Compact kinda felt like a secret. I even thought, it won't take up too much space. Exactly. But, oh, that sentence, it says everything. Because abundance doesn't whisper. It arrives, and it wants room to breathe. Looking back, I wasn't choosing a size. I was choosing how visible I allowed my wealth energy to be. How bold I let it show up. And honestly, that little frog, it looked more like a quiet apology than a statement of trust. Too big, and it can feel like you're trying to force flow. Too small. And you're basically telling the universe, not yet, I'm not ready. Oh gosh, how many times had I done that in other parts of life? Picked the smaller role, said less in meetings, downplayed good news, all because I didn't want to seem too much. And suddenly, this wasn't just about a figurine anymore. It was a mirror, and what it reflected back was how small I was allowing my own energy to show up. After that realization, oh wow, I started noticing it everywhere. Not just with the frog, but with the way I was showing up. Emails? I'd soften my language, add just wondering, or totally fine if not. In conversations, I'd fold my arms, sit smaller, speak quieter even when I knew the answer. I'd pass mirrors in the house and avoid eye contact, not because I didn't like how I looked, but because something inside felt dimmed. And with money, gosh, I'd undercharge, like clockwork, even when clients were happy. Even when I was proud of my work, I'd offer a discount before they asked, like I was trying to beat them to the rejection. And the worst part, I didn't even realize it was connected. That little frog, just sitting there, tiny, polite, and barely noticeable, it was quietly mirroring a part of me I hadn't dared to confront. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So one quiet morning, I sat with it, just me, and this tiny frog that somehow knew all my secrets. I held it in both hands. It felt so light, almost weightless, like it never really landed. And I whispered, "Hey, thank you, but I think I need to grow now." I didn't throw it away. Number. I gently placed it inside a silk pouch and tucked it into my drawer of keepsakes. Then I went looking, not online. I wanted to feel it, to hold the energy in my hands. I visited 2 little crystal shops. Nothing clicked, but on the 3rd try, this one frog caught my eye. Not giant, not flashy, just grounded. Like it knew who it was. Deep forest green with a coin in its mouth. It had weight, and when I touched Ito, my gosh, my chest actually relaxed. I brought it home, placed it on a square wooden tray next to a small bowl of salt water, right under the morning light, right where it could be seen. Then I stood back, and for the first time, my space didn't just feel nice, it felt aligned, not with what I thought abundance should look like, but with who I was finally becoming. That week, something quietly shifted, not in a dramatic, my life just changed kind of way, but in those small, almost invisible moments where your body reacts before your brain even notices. I caught myself walking slower, but somehow taller, shoulders back, spine relaxed, like I had nothing to prove, nothing to rush toward. And when it came to money, I didn't second guess myself as much. I priced my work based on value, not apology. I said no when something didn't feel aligned, and weirdly, people respected it more than before. One evening, as the light hit that frog, the new one, heavy and grounded, and just quietly there, I felt this odd wave of calm. Like I've claimed my corner. Like my energy had finally stopped asking permission. And from that place, little wins began trickling in. A surprise refund. A friend paying back an old debt without me asking. Even a new client referral that just found me somehow. It didn't feel like luck. It felt like resonance. Because that frog wasn't just holding space. It was holding a version of me that had finally stepped up to be seen. Your symbols should match your self-worth. And once I got the size right, the next lesson showed up in the strangest way. Not all mistakes are physical. Some are energetic, quiet, but oh so powerful. I used to think just placing the frog was enough. Like, once it's there, it works. But no one told me. Symbols listen. They don't just sit there. They tune in. And when you place something sacred with doubt in your chest, it doesn't anchor your intention. It amplifies your hesitation. You know, I thought just owning the money frog would be enough. Like, once it's in the house boom, luck shifts. Oh, how naive I was. I placed it without any real connection. Didn't cleanse it. Didn't even pause to say thank you. It was like putting a vase on a shelf just decor, nothing more. And the spot? Gosh, I literally picked the first flat surface I saw, next to a dusty clock and an old envelope I hadn't opened in weeks. The lighting was weird. The corner felt cold. And deep down, I knew it wasn't right. But I told myself, it's fine. It's there. That's what matters. Oh no, it wasn't. Not even close. Because Feng Shui isn't about placement alone. It's about presence. And this frog? It sat in the dark, forgotten, unseen, like a symbol of good fortune left waiting at the back door. And that's when it hit me. I had treated the frog like a to-do item, something to check off, not something to align with. And that was the actual misstep. Not the position, not the color, but the emptiness in my intention. Oh, if only I had slowed down, listened, connected. And sure enough, things felt muted. It wasn't that bad stuff happened. It was just that nothing happened. No new clients. No surprise checks. No sparkle. It felt like I was walking through my days with socks on wet tile. Slow, slippery, slightly off. And my space? It started to mirror that. Dust showed up faster. My plants looked tired. My sleep Huget got strangely restless. I didn't even connect it to the frog at first. I just thought life was low energy. But deep down, I knew I had placed that symbol with hesitation. And hesitation? It multiplies. So, one morning, I made myself a cup of warm tea. Nothing fancy. Just something grounding jasmine, I think. I sat on the floor, right in front of that frog, and I said softly, but seriously, let's start over. I picked it up carefully. It was heavier than I remembered. Or maybe I was finally holding it with intention. The air in the room felt different. Still, like something or someone was listening. I wiped off the dust, then slowly walked around the living room. This time, really feeling into the space. No overthinking, just noticing. Where does the light fall gently? Which corner feels held not forgotten? And then, there it was. Near the southeast window. Soft light. A slight breeze. A sense of breathability. I placed the frog down. This time on a small cloth. Added a red envelope with 3 coins. Dropped a single grain of salties, just one, and lit a candle nearby. Not to manifest, not to control, just to acknowledge. I'm ready to receive, I whispered. And I swear, it felt like something whispered back, but not in words, in ease. You know what's funny? A week after I moved the frog, I noticed I stopped looking at my bank app every night. Like, I just wasn't checking anymore. Not because I suddenly got rich, but because I wasn't scared. There was this one day, I was cleaning up receipts in the kitchen drawer. Usually I'd be anxious, like, oh gosh, how much did I spend? But that day, I was humming. Just humming. I caught myself halfway through and smiled, because that feeling, it wasn't about the frog. It was about me. I had finally placed the frog with peace. And somehow, I started holding my money energy the same way. Softer, slower, more trusting. And that's when I realized this whole thing, it wasn't a superstition. It was a reset. Over the next few days, tiny things began sinking again. I found a crumpled $10 in an old coat pocket. My neighbor dropped off fresh lemons just because a canceled appointment turned into unexpected time to rest. The wealth didn't come all at once, but the flow, it was back. And most of all, I felt like I had come back to myself, more open, more present, more willing to believe in what I couldn't see. Fengshui doesn't respond to furniture. It responds to your frequency. And once I shifted mine, everything else followed. Now there was one more thing I didn't expect. So I thought, okay, frog is good now, done. But nope. Turns out, it still wasn't working fully. The frog wasn't just about where it sat. It was about where I was sitting, emotionally. And oh, I was still stuck in old beliefs I didn't even notice. So here's where it got a little messy. After I finally placed the frog in the right spot, I thought I was done. Like, done. But instead of letting it be, I kept hovering. Every single morning, I'd glance at it, waiting, almost expecting something magical to happen overnight. Like money would just show up, or I'd suddenly feel lucky. Oh gosh. And then came the tweaking. One day, I'd move the coins just a little to the left. The next day, I'd add a crystal. Then, I'd light a candle, blow it out halfway through. Because maybe that felt wrong too. I was adjusting it constantly, like some kind of feng shui remote control, trying to change my outside luck, without noticing how chaotic I had become inside. It was subtle, but so real. The frog had become a pressure point, not a peace symbol. Instead of letting it radiate quiet wealth, I kept feeding it anxious energy, questioning, doubting, micromanaging. And maybe, just maybe, it started echoing all that noise right back into the room. So, of course, I started feeling stuck again. A weird tension in the space. Little things going wrong, packages delayed, emails ignored, unexpected expenses. And that frog, it looked the same. But now, it felt like it was holding my doubt, not my trust. It was a Tuesday night, rain tapping softly on the windows. I had just finished rearranging the coins again, because something about them didn't feel right. I stood there, arms crossed, staring at that little frog like it owed me something, like it should have done more by now. Oh, I could feel it. That tension in my chest creeping up quietly again. That's when I caught myself. Right in that moment, like a whisper in my head went, "You're not letting it breathe." I paused, froze, honestly, because, wow, I was suffocating it with expectation. So I did something weird. I turned off the lights, lit one single candle, and sat cross-legged on the floor in front of the frog. No incense, no crystal, no music, just me, and this tiny ancient-looking frog that I suddenly realized had been reflecting back my own noise. I closed my eyes and breathed in, long, slow, shaky, and whispered, "What are you trying to tell me?" There was no booming answer, no flash of insight, just stillness. But in that stillness, I felt my heart soften, like I didn't need it to do anything. It could just be there, a gentle reminder that I could release the grip, trust a little more, and instead of trying to activate luck, I could start listening to where luck was already trying to reach me, through calm, through presence, through the quiet spaces I had been filling with noise. So yeah, that night, I stopped tweaking, stopped asking, and just started thanking it for being still, for being enough. There was one night. I had just finished dinner, candles still flickering on the table. I passed the frog on the shelf and smiled. Not because anything huge happened, but because I felt okay, really okay. And that night, a friend randomly paid me back for something I'd forgotten. Another client emailed, and I didn't feel surprised. I felt aligned. The shift wasn't dramatic, but it was deep, less forcing, more flowing. I stopped needing signs, started trusting energy. And that frog? Now it feels like a quiet friend in the room. Not a lucky charm, but a reminder. Money flows where peace lives. It's not about the frog working, it's about you softening. So, before you place it near your front door, let's talk about what not to do next. 1. Let it rest without you watching. Oh, I know it's tempting. You place the frog, and then you keep looking at it every day, waiting for something to shift. But wealth energy doesn't bloom under pressure. So gently, just place it near your front door, or maybe your wealth corner. Face it inward, diagonally. Let it see into the home, and then walk away. Yes, walk away without checking it the next morning. Give it space to work with you, not for you. 2. Light, sit, listen. Pick one night, just one. Dim your lights, light a single candle, and sit down in front of the frog knot as a ritual, but like you're visiting an old friend. No incense, no mantra, just your breath. Let your body settle, and if a question comes, whisper it, then listen. Oh gosh, it's subtle, so subtle, but in that quiet, something always moves. 3. Clean with thanks, not duty. Next time you wipe dust around it, do it slowly. No rush, no checklist. Just breathe and whisper. Thank you for holding the stillness I forget to give myself. You don't need big gestures. Not always. Just small ones done with heart. That's what shifts a corner into a sacred space. You know, sometimes the most magical shift comes, not from moving things, but from moving within. That tiny frog, it just sits there, quietly, unmoving, and yet somehow it holds so much. Expectation, belief, doubt, hope. But maybe, just maybe, its power isn't in what it brings. It's in what it mirrors back. So hey, if you have a little frog tucked somewhere in your home, or if you've been meaning to get one, maybe slow down. Place it not just with your hands, but with your heart. And if this kind of soft feng shui storytelling speaks to you, there's more waiting in the playlist. Each object, each placement, each shift in your home is a shift in your energy. So stay a while. There's something here you might need to remember.